Do I need to introduce Scott Ritter to you? He's a man that knows more, has forgotten more about war and the politics of war than virtually anybody alive. He is our most popular guest, always on the mother of all talk shows, and he certainly will always be welcome here by me. Scott Ritter, former Marine intelligence officer. Tell us, if you will, before we get on to your areas of absolute speciality, what do you make of Elon Musk's new party?
I'm thrilled to death. Look, I'm a longtime Republican, Reagan Republican. I've watched the Republican Party, just become something that's unrecognizable under George W. Bush. And saw Donald Trump make a move to transform it. His first term, of course, was not transformative. I guess out of an abundance of hope and wishful thinking, believed that his second term would be the revolution that he promised. And it just turns out it's just one giant grift. He is the same as he's always been. It was a knowable fact that that I overlooked. And we need a change. And I think that what Elon Musk is proposing, this third party, is the change we need. America can't accept a continuation of the uniparty duality that has corrupted our country for these many past decades.
He, quoting Sun Tzu, clearly intends to concentrate overwhelming force at one particular point or set of points on the electoral battlefield. In other words, he's not going to scattergun his political efforts over the entire country, but concentrate on what you might call swing states. Is that wise, and is that your understanding of what he intends to do?
It's my understanding of what he intends to do, and taking a look at the failure of third-party movements historically in the United States that have tried to challenge the existing power elites across the entire spectrum of politics and have failed. I think his approach to pick some swing states and get just enough seats to become the swing vote. And now you have there's a lot of talk. I spoke with Dennis Kucinich, a man who I have a deep admiration for, former congressman from the state of Ohio, former mayor of Cleveland, and he was running for office as an independent in Ohio. And he said, look, with the House as close as it is, one independent vote now that could spell the difference, makes you almost the most powerful person in Congress. Could you imagine having 10 to 12 votes in the House of Representatives? And if you took those 10 to 12 votes and put them on an issue, that issue wins, the leverage that you now have. The same thing in a Senate that is close to 50-50 as it can get, having 2 or 3 senators. This is brilliance on the part of Elon Musk. And once you can establish that leverage, then you can show the American people that there is the possibility of change, and you can begin to grow. So rather than shooting for the moon, you take, you accomplish a task that will be meaningful. I mean, if he can accomplish this, if he truly can get a purple party to challenge the red and the blue, this could be that which is necessary to fix America. Because right now, the dual party system has broken America. I mean, we just 37 trillion in debt. We're up to 42 trillion automatically because of some stupid bill that violates every promise the president made on the campaign trail. We need a third party.
I remember saying, Scott, I think you probably remember it too, when Tony Blair expelled me from the Labour Party over the Iraq War. I remember saying, and I rolled my R's as I was saying it, that Tony Blair will rue the day that he did this. And I'm glad to say I did make him rue it, not twice, but 3 times. Donald Trump will rue the day that he, for no real good reason, fell out with Elon Musk, won't he?
I believe so, but I also believe in retrospect that this falling out was inevitable. Elon Musk is a man who he and I don't agree on everything. I think you've made the same comment. I will forever embrace Elon Musk as a defender of free speech. And I also respect the fact that Elon Musk, more than any American politician I've met recently or know, is a man of character, a man of substance. And when the president brought him in to make these changes to look for fraud and abuse in the government, Elon Musk did this job. And now the president has been shown to be a liar, a grifter, a user. And he turned his back on. He got what he needed from Elon Musk, the political headlines, and then he discarded Elon Musk. And Elon Musk has every right to take umbrage at this. The American public should definitely take umbrage at this. And Donald Trump will rue the day. I can't roll my R's like you, but he will rue the day that he jettisoned Elon Musk.
I hung out with Elon Musk's father in Moscow, and with due account for the fact that a father and son, it's a close relationship. He did say one thing, and he said it more than once, and if it turns out to be accurate, will change a lot of things. He said that Musk hates lying. In fact, an excess of veracity has often been the cause of great trouble and strife for him. And that he discovered that Trump and his circle were just as big a set of liars than Biden and Harris and their circle. If true, that'll be a big breakthrough, won't it?
Absolutely. I think that's one thing that Elon Musk and I have in common is an over adherence to the truth. It does get you in trouble a lot because the world is not black and white, and many people operate in different shades of gray. And for somebody who embraces veracity, embraces the truth, that shade of gray can oftentimes be a difficult place to operate. And politicians succeed by being able to operate in that gray without violating to an extreme fashion, issues of integrity. Elon Musk will never be a politician for that reason, because he appears to be a man who says what he means and means what he says, and this is a good thing. America needs more of this. The legend of Americans, and I say legend because I understand it's not the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but the legend of Americans are that we are people. Maybe simple compared to the complexity of Europe. But we're people that stood our ground, looked you in the eye, put out our hand, and when we shook your hand, that was a contract. That's what I grew up on. I mean, to this day, I tell people the signature on a piece of paper doesn't mean as much to me as a handshake. If I look you in the eye and I shake your hand, that's my word to you that it will get done or I will die trying. And I think Elon Musk is that kind of guy. And we need more of that in America. I mean, this is our foundational principles. And I'm, like I said, I'm not I can't say that I worship Elon. I don't worship anybody except my wife. But I can't find fault with a man who believes in telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's never a bad thing.
Amen to that. Let's turn to the war, or rather the wars. Can I get your take, first of all, Scott, on the news which is coming out? Until I came on air, there were several anxious statements from the British that a ship, which I presume therefore to be British, has been punctured in the Red Sea by the Yemen People's Army, the Ansar Allah. It would appear that it came under attack, that the Yemenis at least say that it was bound for Israel. And twinned with that, the astonishing fact that from this poor desert republic. Astonishingly levels of accuracy of ballistic and now hypersonic missiles are being fired and landing right on Ben Gurion Airport. What is this Yemen? Has it been visited by aliens that are super proficient in the arts of war? What is it that makes the Yemenis so incredibly tenacious, brave, and accurate in their fire?
George, when I was a weapons inspector in Iraq, the first thing that I had to come to grips with was that the Iraqis were some of the finest scientists in the world, that they had been educated in European schools, European universities, and these weren't simple Bedouin tribesmen who put on a suit and were out of place. These were cultured intellectuals of the highest order. And the next thing I learned is that the Iraqis, in many ways, looked to the Yemeni for guidance on certain technical issues. For instance, the Yemeni had the SS-21 Tochka missile. The Iraqis borrowed a missile, SS-21, from the Yemenis to reverse engineer it, and were in coordination with the Yemenis about the complexities of guidance and control. And this is in the 1990s, early 1990s.
Wow.
And it always struck me. I'm like, wait a minute, this is Yemen. These guys wear sandals, and they have, they wear dish rags around their heads. And I mean, I'm being very racist right now.
A knife,
and they have the curved knife. And it's a cool looking knife. But I mean, come on, man. This is the modern world we're talking about. And the Iraqis, whenever they spoke of the Yemeni, always spoke in the highest degree, not only about their technical proficiencies, but, and I'll give another war story. We were trying to get, during the Gulf War, we were trying to get the Saudis to redeploy troops to the Kuwaiti border. After all, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and we were concerned about the Saudis moving down into the eastern provinces. And we're like, why aren't you moving your forces? And the Saudis said, we ain't moving any forces off the Yemeni border. Those guys are crazy. And if they come over the border, they could take Riyadh. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are just guys who wear sandals and wear dish rags, and they got a knife. Why are you worried about them? The Yemeni have been misunderstood by the West forever. Yes, they wear sandals. Yes, they wear dish rags. And yes, they have a cool knife. But that's cultural, traditional things. They also have PhDs. They also are engineers of the highest order. They know how to run a modern society. If you've been to the city of Sana'a, you'll see it as a modern, functioning city, as is many other places in Yemen. And when it comes to their defense, they had incorporated some of the most sophisticated weaponry of their day, and they knew how to use it. They're experts in its use. And when it came time to modifying the weapons that they had, the Scud missiles that they had, converting them into longer range missiles with greater capabilities. Not only were they capable of doing this on their own, but when provided the opportunity to receive assistance from Iran, were able to rapidly assimilate the complexities of the engineering the Iranians were speaking of and adapt it to their indigenous manufacturing base, which is quite sophisticated. And so anybody who has studied Yemen and studied Yemeni engineering and their military industry, it would not come as a surprise that these fantastic scientists and engineers were able to build these weapons. But for people who continue to be bound by the prejudice of their ignorance, you wake up one morning to find a Yemeni missile puncturing your ship in the Red Sea, wondering how the hell this happened.
Yeah, they also speak the purest Arabic and are said to be the purest in faith matters also. Yemen is a very special place indeed. Let's go to the Holy Land next. The Chief of Staff of the Israeli army is said to have had a big shouting match with Netanyahu this week. He said to Netanyahu, we cannot govern 2 million people in the Gaza Strip. who's going to govern them? And Netanyahu said, the state of Israel will govern them. Now get ahead and obey your orders. Then I started looking at recent videos of the guerrilla fighting, which is continuing in the ruins of Gaza. I mean, it would not have been out of place in Stalingrad, house-to-house fighting. And the superior armed Israeli occupiers were getting one hell of a pounding from, not in sandals, but in sneakers, these young fellows who are ready to die, to plant an IED under a half-track, under a tank, and shoot anything that moves coming out of it. The Israelis are not doing well in Gaza, militarily, never mind in public relations around the world, would you say?
The Israelis are losing militarily and in public relations around the world. This is an abject disaster for Israel. I mean, even the 12-day war with Iran, which is supposed to, show Israel's military supremacy over Iran, has failed. The censorship of Israel can't hide the fact that the Iranians dealt serious blows to the Israelis. It was the Israelis, after all, who begged for this ceasefire. And now we have Gaza. I don't want to say I told you so, but one of the first articles I wrote about a prolonged conflict with Gaza, in Gaza by the Israelis, I said, look, the Hamas is luring Israel into a piece of terrain. Israel will have the ability to destroy the buildings. But when that happens, you will get Stalingrad on the surface combined with Iwo Jima on the bottom. If you know the Battle of Iwo Jima, how the Japanese dug tunnels in the Mount Suribachi, then below, and it haunted the Marines as they advanced. The Japanese would come up out of the ground behind the Marines, sometimes in the Marines' foxholes, pull the Marines down and kill them. Yes, the Marines were able to defeat that because they didn't have Stalingrad on top of that. They had black volcanic sand. But now you combine Stalingrad on the top with the tunnels on the bottom, and Israel will never defeat this, ever defeat this. Not as long as there are Hamas fighters ready and prepared to give their lives in the struggle. And this is what we see. We saw in the first, was it 11, 15 months of fighting, I think 15 months, when Hamas came out from the tunnels, this wasn't a bunch of ragtag guys who just gotten their butts kicked. This was a proud army. They were strong, uniformed, disciplined. Yes, in the north, when the northern brigades came out intact, they looked a little haggard because they had been fighting the fight. But they weren't defeated. They were, resolute. And the Israelis, on the other hand, are a broken army. Gaza has changed them. Even with, amongst the true believers in Israel, within the IDF, they acknowledge that Gaza has destroyed them morally. They are finished. They are done. They are committing murder on a scale. There's not even a pretense anymore. They just straight up say we're killing civilians. We're shooting into the civilians to establish our presence. We're murdering the civilians just to shape the psychological, this is a war crime every day. And this is another thing that I said, sadly, we're going to get to the point where the world just wakes up and it's normal to see 147 dead Palestinian children. And we just go, oh, another day. This should shock us to death. We had a flood in Texas, and tragically, a couple dozen young children have lost their lives, swept away by the waters, and a nation is in mourning. Well, my God, what about the dozens that are killed every day in Gaza by American bombs dropped by an American ally working on the political instructions of an American president? Where's the outrage? Where's the shock? There is none. This is a sad state of affairs that we're in. But the bottom line is the Hamas fighters know. They know who's killing the children. They know who's to blame, and they will never surrender. never surrender. I don't know how many times Donald Trump has to say, we're going to get rid of Hamas. You're not going to get rid of Hamas, Donald Trump. You don't have what it takes to get rid of Hamas. Hamas is there in the ground, and you can't get them out. And the Israeli chief of staff knows that, and Benjamin Netanyahu is going to have to learn that the hard way.
I've kept you a long time, but if you'll forgive me, one last question, Scott. The biggest enchilada of them all, though all of those have been big ones. What on earth is happening with the American administration in Ukraine? Little Zelensky said today that he just had his best ever call with Donald Trump. Yet the day before, Trump and Putin seemed to get on famously in another very long phone call. How do you make sense of what the Americans are doing or see as their goal in the Ukraine conflict?
You know, earlier we talked about Elon Musk and how he was a stickler for veracity, for truth. What we're seeing at play here is the byproduct of an administration that stands for nothing whatsoever. And what we're also seeing is that President Trump cannot get the better of President Putin. That President Putin is a very sage man, a very wise man who will not yield at all. He doesn't give President Trump any leverage at all on the issue of Ukraine. He is just straightforward. These are our demands. This is what we're going to do. And Trump can't take him off that stance. But Trump also understands that there has to be better relations with Russia. So he is capable of pursuing better relations. And yet on Ukraine, he doesn't know how to admit defeat. See, Donald Trump is incapable. He's such a narcissist, such an egomaniac, that it's impossible for him to say, yeah, we need to cut our losses. I mean, who among us hasn't at some point in time in their life gotten deep into a problem or something and said, this ain't going right. This is wrong. We got to cut. We got to go. We got to reset. Donald Trump can't do that because his ego won't let him. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to use words to salve the wounds of Zelensky. We're going to use words to salve the wounds of our NATO allies, but we can't back it up with anything. The president is promising Patriot missile batteries and Patriot missiles that don't exist, that we don't have to deliver. He's making promises to Europe of American support if Europe bankrupts itself by committing to a 5% GDP increase of their defense spending, not recognizing, and I don't think many people do, that 2.5% GDP defense sometimes is the equivalent of the entire government budget of some of these nations. And to go to 5 means that that's all you're spending your money on. A GDP is not a reflection of the budget. It's a reflection of the gross domestic product. Trump we're in for a very ugly period because it's only going to get worse. Just like, as you know, as a man of integrity, as you've watched politicians lie throughout their lives, and I've watched people lie throughout their lives, you just dig the hole deeper. Your lies just dig the hole deeper, make the problem more difficult to solve. In the end, the only solution that's going to come from Ukraine is the Russian solution, which Putin has said will take as long as it needs to take. He's under no timeline, no political timeline. Whereas, Trump and everybody else, they are operating on political timelines. Each one of them is looking at a ticking clock of their political fate as it ticks down to their demise if they don't change something, and they don't have the courage to say we were wrong in Ukraine. And as you have pointed out over and over again, the people that are going to pay the price are the Ukrainian people, whose lives will continue to be squandered in this ridiculous game of American hegemony, European relevance. I don't know if you saw the news. The Russians this last week, no matter how many times the Western media is going to spin lies, the Russians lost the lowest number of soldiers in the war in the last week, and they killed more Ukrainians than ever before. 156 Russians, I believe, lost their lives. That's tragic. These were numbers that broke America's back during the Vietnam War. We bringing home 200 dead boys a week, and it broke us. So it's painful for the Russians. They lost 156. They killed 1,200 and something. That's a kill ratio that can't be sustained by the Ukrainians, but it's one that the West appears to be willing to let continue so that Donald Trump's ego can be, stroked.
As Shakira said, Scott, hips don't lie, and neither do BlackRock investors. And they have cut and run because they've discovered that BlackRock were claiming ownership rights to resources that are now and forevermore under the feet of the Russian army. So that too is a very telling inflection point, isn't it?
Absolutely. And these investors, I can't say I've worked with BlackRock, but I remember back in 1998, 1999, when I first resigned and my name was everywhere, I was brought in as a consultant by global hedge funds and global investment companies of a similar sort. And they wanted my geopolitical analysis so that they could make these kind of investment decisions. And they play to win. And they have the ability to leverage a lot of influence through money, through investments, et cetera. And, for them to walk away from an investment of the sort that they've made in Ukraine is indicative of their conclusion that this situation cannot be reversed. Because normally, they can play the long game. So they could say, okay, we're going to hold on to this for 20 years. And it'll reverse in 20 years. We'll just take the losses, whatever ledger magic they do. But for them to walk away now means that this will never change. That, as you said, it is now and forever part of Mother Russia, and there's nothing that's going to change that. And that is the biggest tell of them all.